Let's get started with this strategies for cancer prevention with me, Andrea Beeman. With over 30 years of experience, I'm going to share with you real solutions to reduce cancer risk and support your system naturally and easily so you can live without fear of developing cancer. And if it does develop, you'll have the tools to help you heal. So we're going to cover why the war on cancer isn't actually working. As you can see, right? Cancer just keeps growing and growing and growing and growing. How looking for cancer generates fear, stress, and tanks immunity. How to reduce risk and prevent cancer. How to strengthen immunity to avert cancer. And what you can do right now to prevent and heal. And by the end of this health session today, you're going to know why the war on cancer doesn't work and what actually does. How many of you are eating well and taking care of yourself, but you still have a fear of cancer? So I can identify with those fears because I've been there too. Many of you that are here today, you already know my personal story of being diagnosed with thyroid disease all the way back in 1996. And at that time, it was recommended by my doctor that I take radioactive iodine to destroy my thyroid and then be on medication for the rest of my life. But I said no to the radioactive iodine because I didn't want radioactive anything inside my body because of what I saw happen to my mother. So my mother was diagnosed with breast cancer in the 1980s. She started experiencing a dull pain in her left breast and in her armpit that radiated down her arm. So she went for testing. She did a mammogram, but they didn't find anything. But about a year later, she was at a St. Patty's Day party and ate some food dye that was in a green colored bagel. And she had a severe reaction. That left arm that was bothering her swelled all the way down to the fingertips, from the top of her armpit all the way down to her fingertips. And she could barely move it. And the pain in her breast returned even stronger. So she scheduled another appointment with her doctor. Actually, I think she might have went to the ER at that time and then scheduled an appointment with a doctor. And that's when they found the lump that was the size of a pinball in her breast. And that's when she was diagnosed with cancer. Back in the 1980s, for those of you that are old enough, like me, to be in the 1980s alive, they treated cancer with something called a radical mastectomy, where they removed the entire breast and all of the tissue, as well as all of the lymph nodes under the arm. And they removed the chest muscles as well. And as the name implied, it was a radical mastectomy. Plus, after her surgery, she was given radiation treatments to kill any possible lingering cells that may have been in her chest. She has this radical surgery, and then for 5 years, she continued to go for yearly cancer checkups. And at the end of 5 years, all of her doctors told her that she was cancer-free, right? She just had to get to that 5-year limit. So she continued after that, eating and living the way she normally did, but she also included some vitamin E and some vitamin D into her daily diet just as a safety, and all was well for many years. Unfortunately, 11 years after her initial diagnosis with cancer, she started feeling extremely exhausted and dizzy. She was working long hours, and she thought the exhaustion was from overwork. And then one day in the morning, she fainted in the bathroom and couldn't stand up. We called an ambulance. They took her to the hospital. After a slew of tests, they discovered that the breast cancer, even though she no longer had the breast or the lymph nodes, had now spread to her bones, her lungs, her liver, and her brain. It was literally everywhere in her body. We followed the recommended treatments once again, which included radiation and chemotherapy every week. I drove her for those treatments, and I watched her literally grow weaker and weaker and more depleted every single time I took her. She couldn't eat anything, and when she did eat something, she either threw it up or it ran right through her. She had chronic diarrhea. She lost all of her hair. She slept all day and had no life force. She literally looked pale and lifeless, like what you typically see in a cancer ward. At that same time, my dad had read an article about a Dr. Hugh Faulkner that was diagnosed with terminal cancer, and he was given 3 months to live by his colleagues. But He changed his diet and started using food as medicine in the form of something called macrobiotics, right? That was really hot in the 80s and the 90s. And he lived an additional 7 years beyond his 3-month death diagnosis. So we tried using this with my mom. We started giving her a natural foods diet. Everything was fresh and chemical and pesticide free. The food was homemade and lovingly prepared. And within 1 week, we noticed a change in my mother's energy. She was able to get up and get out of bed. The color came back to her lips. They went from gray to pink. Also, her cheeks color came back and her eyes were bright and more alert. Now, that diet wasn't enough to bring my mother back from the depleted state her body, mind, and spirit was in from the war that was waged on her cancer and her immune system. She died about 18 months later from a lung infection. But the experience planted in me a seed that if I ever get diagnosed with any disease, I'm going to try food first before anything radical or destructive. When my doctor offered me radioactive iodine for my thyroid disease and that big lump in my neck, I said, no, thanks. I changed my diet and my lifestyle, and I dove deep into studying natural healing methods, and I healed my condition. When it comes to treating disease, the vast majority of doctors are still working with old medical protocols. And for cancer, that includes radiation, chemotherapy, and surgery. But those treatments destroy the immune system and never get to the root cause of why the cancer is there in the first place and what you can do to heal. Those treatments are actually not designed to heal cancer. The war on cancer is a $1 trillion business. You guys have to get very clear on that. And if people knew that there were natural ways to both prevent and heal cancer, that war would no longer be profitable. During my mother's bout with cancer and my experience with thyroid disease, I dove deep into learning about every natural healing modality that I could. It was an amazing healing journey that I'm totally grateful for. I spent my time, my energy, and my money into understanding the body on a deeper level. And although I wasn't able to help my mom, I healed my thyroid condition naturally, and I also healed a lump that was in my left breast. But I'm going to get into that story a little bit later, so hang tight. I got lots of fun stories for you today. So today, I'm sharing with you prevention and healing strategies to save your time, your money, and your health, and reduce any fear you may have about cancer, or at least most of the fear you have about it. I am grateful that I said no to that medical treatment that was offered to me over 3 decades ago, the radioactive iodine. If I didn't, I would probably be stuck still inside a fear-based medical system that doesn't heal the body, mind, or spirit. I'm not the only one that natural healing has worked for. Thousands of people around the world have supported their body using my guided step-by-step natural healing process, like Rose. Rose says, I can wholeheartedly endorse Andrea Beeman as one of the most gifted and brilliant practitioners I've ever worked with. She has amazing knowledge and expertise, which makes her a true master in her field. When I met her, I was suffering from terrible vertigo after a horse riding accident, and I had been diagnosed with a benign pituitary tumor. Andrea was able to help me reverse these conditions in a natural and very effective way, which has allowed me to heal, finish my studies, build a successful business, and do the things that make me feel I'm able to live life to the fullest again. I'm beyond amazed by the results I've had and continue to experience. How would you feel if you were able to reverse your conditions in a natural way and live life to the fullest? How would it feel? It would feel great, right? You'd be able to be happy and healthy without fear of disease hanging over your head all the time, or fear of this condition, or fear of that condition, or fear of everything. Fear is a big business. So the strategies I'm sharing with you today have the ability to transform your health and boost your confidence in natural healing. So let's take a look at symptoms, early symptoms. These are some of the symptoms, not all of them. These are some of the early symptoms that are associated with cancer. These are the most common symptoms to be aware of. And I've been there too when I found a lump in my breast. So lumps and swellings, any new lump or thickening, especially in the breast, neck, armpit, or groin, fatigue, extreme tiredness that's not relieved by rest, Bleeding or bruising, so any unusual bleeding or bruising or bleeding, blood in the stool, blood in the urine, vomit, or bleeding in between periods. Weight loss, losing 10 pounds or more without trying. Like I just bumped into my neighbor across the way. He's in his 70s. He lost 20 pounds in a month and he doesn't know why. So that's usually an indicator. Fever and night sweats, persistent fever or night sweats with no clear cause. Pain, any chronic pain that doesn't go away or it changes. My sister-in-law is experiencing this right now. And she said that she thinks that she has cancer. So if she thinks that she has it, she probably does, because we are really intuitive and we know a lot of stuff. And she thinks that she does because there's a pain in her back that is getting worse and worse and worse. Some strategies to prevent cancer. We're going to go deeper into these. We're going to cover the reasons why looking for cancer and killing cancer is a dangerous practice that doesn't get to the root cause of why the cancer developed. And it also won't resolve any of those symptoms that we just looked at on the previous slide. Plus, I'm going to share simple strategies to prevent cancer from taking hold of your system. We're going to look at digestion and immunity and why it's imperative to optimize it, detoxification, and why you must intentionally support your body with some type of ongoing detox or cleansing on a yearly or quarterly basis. Mindset, how chronic fear about cancer actually promotes cancer growth. Why modern cancer detection and treatments don't actually work for prevention. Most modern cancer treatments don't actually improve long-term health and certainly don't work for prevention and healing. So a lot of what I'm going to say today may be triggering for some people, and I'm going to say it anyway because it needs to be said. Okay? I'm not afraid of getting canceled. Been there, done that. It hurts for a little bit, but then you pick yourself up again and you keep moving. So many people are encouraged and advised to go for yearly testing to try and find cancer in their body. But that testing doesn't actually prevent cancer from developing. It's not designed to. The medical system is not designed to empower you about your health. That's not the way that it's designed. Instead, it keeps people trapped in the mindset of fear about finding cancer. So this keeps people paralyzed and stuck inside a sick care system that generates trillions of dollars from fear. So cancer diagnosis and treatment is a huge moneymaker, and it is 100% fueled by fear and constantly looking for cancer. Looking for cancer and then attacking that cancer does not support any of your internal systems. True cancer prevention and healing comes when all of your bodily systems work harmoniously together, and that includes optimizing immunity and digestion, ensuring your detoxification systems are working well, and shifting your mindset from fear to confidence and empowerment. When you support your body step by step with the best foods, daily and seasonal rhythms, the right guidance, you can feel more confident about your health and reduce your risk factors for any disease, including cancer. Right now, there's a huge surge in cancer. It's not little, it's huge. And it's happening to younger and younger people. Colorectal cancer is now the leading cause of death in young adults. That's people under 50 years old. This is from the scientific journal Nature. A clinical oncology review states, among the 15 early onset cancer types with a rising incidence, 8, those of colorectum, esophagus, extrahepatic bile duct, gallbladder, head and neck, liver, pancreas, and stomach, relate to the digestive system, indicating the potential pathogenic importance of both the oral and intestinal microbiome. That's very smart that they came to that conclusion. But what are they doing about it? Right? The vast majority of our immunity and ability to protect ourselves from disease lies within our intestinal microbiome. So it's vital that we learn how to nourish it properly. So let me ask you this serious question. Does getting a colonoscopy nourish your intestinal microbiome? Think about that. Does it nourish your microbiome in any way, shape, or form? It doesn't nourish the microbiome. It doesn't support or heal your gut in any way, and it's not designed to. Now I'm going to go a little bit deeper, and this may be triggering for people. What about chemotherapy? Does that nourish your microbiome? What do you think? It actually does the opposite. chemotherapy, for those of you that have researched or studied it, it significantly negatively impacts the gut microbiome. It causes major disruptions like dysbiosis. It kills your beneficial bacteria. It destroys microbial diversity. It leads to inflammation, diarrhea, extreme fatigue, what's called chemo brain, hair loss, you name it. It wipes out your intestinal immune system. I'm going to tell you this right now. It is a dangerous treatment, and it does not promote healing. It doesn't. It's toxic. 100%. It's a dangerous treatment. So the question is, how do you nourish your microbiome to support your immunity, decrease your risk of getting cancer, and increase your chances of actually fighting cancer? Well, this is one of the ways here. Nourishing the microbiome includes being conscious of the food you eat. Make sure it's clean, organic, and naturally raised and not doused with chemicals and pesticides that disrupt bodily functions and have already been directly linked with increasing cancer risk. Nourishing your microbiome also includes eating inulin-rich foods to feed the bifidobacteria that is crucial to support digestion, immune function, and reduce inflammation. This bacteria specifically was destroyed by the circulating spike proteins and the mRNA technology. Somebody said to me, they sent me a private message on Instagram yesterday, and they said, there's nothing that people can do, right? What can people do if they took this technology into their body that replicates a spike protein over and over and over and over again? And I said, I don't believe there's nothing that can be done. I said, I don't live in that world. I believe that they do a couple of spike protein detoxes, they get their immune system back online, they nourish their microbiome, they build it back up, and the body, because it's brilliantly designed, will start to take care of itself again. I don't go into the fear mongering on any side, right? I don't want to tell people you can't heal. That's not the truth. I believe as long as you're alive and breathing, you could improve your condition in some way, physical, emotional, spiritual. So another way to nourish your microbiome is to include eating seasonally, because that supports a more diverse bacterial population and more robust immunity. So many people think, well, I'm eating well, everything organic, but they totally neglect seasonality. And that actually limits the diversity of gut bacteria, leaving you at higher risk for poor immunity and developing cancer. So here is what one of the members in my community had to say. This is Maureen. Maureen said, I love this lesson. It was probably the best explanation I've heard about why local and seasonal eating is important and how our bodies respond to it. Thank you, Andrea. I plan to go back and watch this many times so I'm better able to explain it to others. So here's something to consider. We all know that broccoli is a member of the Brassicaceae family, right? And that it's been linked with reducing your cancer risk. But are you supposed to eat it every day all year round? Absolutely not. It's imperative that you switch up your organic foods and eat seasonally as much as possible. Seasonal eating creates a more diverse microbiome. And this is the way your body is designed to stay healthy. And that's what the people in my Health is Wealth community learn. Let's keep moving. I know it's not the greatest picture in the world. I was deciding on which picture to use here. So we're talking about healthy detoxification, right? The body doesn't just develop cancer out of the blue, right, for no reason. There could be many, many reasons. And one of those reasons is that the detoxification organs and pathways may not be working optimally. So that's why focusing on finding and killing cancer doesn't actually work. Your internal systems need to be supported to work well. So I'm going to give you a personal example. One of my childhood friends, Georgia, was diagnosed with colon cancer at 50 years old, and she died less than 1 year later. When I visited her at the hospital, I asked her to share her symptoms with me, because as a natural health practitioner with a focus on prevention and healing, I'm always curious about what the body literally says before any illness manifests. So she told me that she couldn't have a bowel movement for over 2 weeks, so that's when she went to the hospital to see what was wrong. And I was completely shocked. I was like, 2 weeks without a bowel movement? How is that possible? And then she told me that she actually suffered from constipation her entire life, and that it was normal for her to not release her bowels on a daily basis. Not being able to move your bowels for 2 days or 3 days in a row or 5 days in a row or 1 full week, as she had often experienced, is a huge red flag. That indicates that her detoxification organs, her lymphatic system, and her liver and gallbladder and her bodily systems were not functioning well. So if the body cannot eliminate toxins and waste in a timely manner, it congests the system and toxins get reabsorbed back into the body, and that creates the perfect environment for diseases like cancer to develop. When I asked her if she had ever mentioned the constipation to her doctors, and she said yes, but that they only recommended laxatives for her. Now, that to me it's shocking. So I understand recommending a laxative is really good for immediate relief, but it doesn't address the deeper danger. Her detoxification system was not working. And the colon is not the only detox organ. Your liver, your kidneys, your skin, and your lungs are all detox pathways. The system actually needs to be functioning well to detox properly. So this is one of the reasons why we have monthly challenges inside my community. Throughout the year, we focus on supporting different bodily systems. We do a spring cleanse, we do a liver detox, we do lung and respiratory support, we do kidney health, heart health, colon health. We focus on something new every month. And here's what Donna had to say. Donna said, I'm a former healthcare worker and licensed massage therapist, and also a founding member of Andrea's Health is Wealth community. The group meetings, expert sessions, cooking classes, and monthly challenges are all top-notch and interactive. They are constantly adding content. When she says they, she's talking about me and Amanda. Amanda is our community manager, and she's amazing. Donna says they are constantly adding content. Our sessions begin on time, and they're completely present during the session, so you never feel rushed or not seen. I'll never not be a member of this community. This is the place I come to make the biggest improvements in my physical and emotional well-being. You couldn't make a better investment in your health than joining this community. Getting the support and the guidance to care for your whole system is the key to reduce fear about disease and to start thriving. Do you understand that? You have to look at the whole system as one whole functioning unit. And if one of the systems is not functioning well, you don't go into the fear space. You go into the, okay, well, how can I get this system to function better? What can I do now to get this system moving and grooving the way that it's designed? Because it's perfectly designed. So let's talk about mindset around disease, stress, and cancer. So cancer is not new. It's not a new thing. It's been around for centuries, at least as long as we know. But we didn't start actually screening for cancer until the early 1900s. So people now get a yearly mammogram, a colonoscopy, a pap smear, a blood test, a gene test, a PSA test, a urine test, or any other screening, but none of that actually prevents cancer. And I'm going to suggest that the stress and the fear of constantly searching for a disease like cancer year after year after year, and the impending doom of potentially finding it increases your risk of developing and dying from cancer. So here's some science around that. The British Journal of Cancer concluded that the stress hormone cortisol plays a role in cancer development due to its immunosuppressive, obesogenic, and hyperglycemic effects. Studies found that stress-related factors are associated with more rapid progression of several types of cancer, including blood cancers such as leukemia and lymphoma. And the National Cancer Institute studies reveal stress hormones alter the behavior of neutrophils, causing dormant cancer cells to reawaken. So stress is a big deal. So the trillion-dollar cancer industry actually feeds off your fear about cancer. Cancer detection and treatment is a huge moneymaker that is actually driven by fear of cancer. When I was 43 years old, I felt a dull ache inside my left armpit. It was there for probably about, 6 months or something like that. It was just a dull ache. And then one night I felt something that was literally bothering me inside my left breast. So I felt around, and there it was, a lump. I couldn't freaking believe it. It was the size of a marble. At first, I had this fear run through me. I mean, come on. 43 was the exact age that my mother found her breast cancer in her left breast, and in the exact same way. She had that pain as well, going on the inside of her armpit, radiating down her arm. So we were the exact same age. I'm 43. I find this lump. She was 43 when they found her lump. So I had this initial fear response. And then I was like, wait a minute, I know what to do here. So I had my boyfriend, Pablo, who's actually my husband now, I had him feel it to make sure I wasn't imagining it. And he immediately got scared and worried. And he said, whoa. He said, that is a lump in your breast and you have got to get that checked out ASAP. And I said, well, even if I get it checked out and even if it is cancerous, I'm not going to do radiation and chemotherapy because I saw what happened to my mother. Those treatments are just not for me. So Pablo was like, I know you're all crunchy granola and into natural healing, but that is a lump in your breast. And don't waste any time. Go get that checked out. And I reassured him. I said, don't worry. I said, I'm going to apply everything that I know about natural healing, and then I'm going to wait to see what happens. So I eliminated all the sugar from my diet. I'm clearly not in denial. I know I have a sweet tooth, and I was eating way too much maple syrup and honey. I know that they're natural, but please, a jar a week, come on. I know what I do. I also stopped eating all of the organic healthy snacks that I got from the health food store. I know that that's just junk food repackaged as organic and healthy. So I totally cleaned up my diet. I incorporated lymphatic moving food and herbs like seaweed, burdock root, red clover. Plus I started doing a new meditation because I had just finished reading a great book called The Biology of Belief by scientist Dr. Bruce Lipton. And if you haven't read that book, pick it up and put it into your library. In the book, he says that our beliefs and perceptions control our biology through epigenetics, and that the mind-body connection influences the DNA and the cell activity. So his book actually empowers people to change their life and their health by reprogramming their subconscious thoughts and beliefs. Because of his alternative beliefs, he was literally kicked out of the scientific community and he was ridiculed by his peers. But 20 years later, science knows beyond the shadow of a doubt that our thoughts and our beliefs are powerful and they can influence our ability to heal, or on the flip side, they can influence our ability to develop disease. That's fascinating to me. Like when a doctor says, oh, we think you have 3 months to live. If you believe that, trust me, you have 3 months to live. If you don't believe that, you could live a lot longer. With this power of belief in mind, I incorporated a new daily healing meditation and a visualization, right? Every morning in my meditation, I visualized that lump in my breast and I imagined it circling around my body like a gumball being released from an old-fashioned gumball machine. And when it got to the bottom of my body, I envisioned it pooping out and going into the toilet, and I would flush it away. Right? So I did that. It was a playful meditation, but I did it because it kept me away from fear, right? So I did this meditation every day for 5 weeks. The first week, I thought I noticed a decrease in size, but I had Pablo check it, and he said, no, babe. He goes, that is the same size. He goes, but I'm not a doctor. I don't think you should mess around with this thing. What if it grows bigger, even bigger than it is now? And he was right. It could certainly grow. That was a possibility. But I didn't have that fear. So I told him, just listen, have patience. I'm just going to keep doing this and see what happens. It hasn't grown. It just hasn't shrunk, but it hasn't grown. And at the end of the second week, when Pablo checked it again, this time he said, oh yeah, it goes, maybe it is getting a little smaller, but I can't really tell. And you need to get this checked out by a professional. By the third week, Pablo checked it again and he says, okay, yeah, it's definitely getting smaller. And then by the fourth week, it was even smaller. And by the fifth week, the lump was the size of a pinhead. And then it just simply disappeared. Now, I didn't give in to the fear that Pablo had about that breast lump. Just like my mother, Pablo's mother had breast cancer too. And she did radiation and chemo, just like my mom. And 15 years later, she developed cancer again and she died. So instead of giving into the fear, I became proactive in using the wellness tools that I've learned how to help me heal. These are the same tools that I share with my Health is Wealth community to keep them healthy and happy and feeling positive about their health outcomes, right? And what they choose to do for their health. So I want to emphasize right now that I'm not against medical doctors. I simply know when to use their expertise and when not to. And when it comes to healing and prevention of disease, including cancer, doctors have not been trained to work with the body and the immune system. Unfortunately, when it comes to cancer, they've been trained to attack, mutilate, radiate, and poison. And that just doesn't make any sense to me. It doesn't support the body in its healing process. It actually destroys the body and it destroys immunity. The body needs a wellness system that doesn't feed on fear. And there's a lot of fear about cancer. Do you understand that? There's so much fear out there. It's crazy. A healing system that truly works looks like it includes great food, how to cook it, plus it includes learning about the beneficial foods and the herbs that have been used for centuries to support detoxification, your digestive system, and all of your bodily system. It also includes learning how to support your system. It includes a happy lifestyle that is free from fear. Here's what Maureen had to say. She said, the cancer prevention and healing cooking class was amazing. My biggest takeaway is that I've been cooking my mushrooms wrong. I've always sauteed in oil, but we'll start cooking in liquid now, right? So she learned that in my cancer prevention cooking class. So for those of you that don't know, the healing constituents in medicinal mushrooms that everyone's going crazy for are all water soluble. So it's best to have them in something like this soup here, right? So this soup contains shiitake mushrooms that are rich in lentinin. Lentinin is considered a natural form of chemotherapy. It stimulates the immune system by increasing T cells and natural killer cells, right? But it doesn't destroy your system while it does that, right? That's a bonus. There are also enoki mushrooms. You see those little thin white ones? Those are enokis. And those are rich in gallic acid and ferulic acid. And these compounds neutralize free radicals and reduce oxidative stress, which is linked to the development of chronic conditions, including cancer. So both of these mushrooms contain beta-glucans that enhance innate and adaptive immune response. And everyone knows that a robust immune system is better equipped to identify and destroy diseased cells. That's the way that it works. It's the way your body's designed. So when you give your body what it needs, you let it do the work. And by the way, in the scientific studies, enoki mushrooms have been shown to inhibit the growth and the spread of several types of cancer cells, including, you see that little thin little mushroom right there, including liver cancer, breast cancer, cervical cancer, and stomach cancer. You could look it up on Dr. Google. So one of the best things about my system is that you don't have to do it alone. Right? Most people will quit or give up and give into like fear mongering, not because the steps to natural healing don't work, but because they feel alone or doubt creeps in or they feel confused or they get stuck in a loop of not feeling well and not getting the results that they want. But being around like-minded people that strive to do things naturally is truly inspirational and helps to keep you on track with your wellness goals. It's literally a game changer for your health. There's power in community. It's one of the reasons why community collaboration works to help people achieve their goals. And for those of you that have seen the longest lived peoples on the planet, right, all in the blue zones, what do they have in common? They're all part of a community. So community works. And healing happens faster and lasts longer in a community. People feel connection, belonging, accountability. And with community support, you stay on track, you keep learning, and you feel encouraged, empowered, and supported, instead of feeling overwhelmed or stressed out, like what Sarah experiences inside the community. She said, I pop into this community and just feel good. So many online communities generate a stress response, but in the Health is Wealth community, it feels happy, safe, and warm. Thank you for facilitating this for us, Andrea, and for sharing your wells of wisdom. Right? So if you're looking for health and wellness and the way to support your body, it starts with empowerment and being proactive, not waiting around for sickness, not looking for sickness, right? Because sickness is going to show up one way or another. And if you are chronically looking for it, oh, my mother had cancer, this one had cancer. If you are believing, if you're in the land of, well, I'm bad, going to get cancer as well, guaranteed that's going to happen, right? So change the mindset. Have a happy holiday. Enjoy your Christmas and your New Year. Bye, everyone.